Hey, welcome back to another Lumioki mini video. Now with an improved microphone. I've got like 300 views in total, so obviously it's time to invest all of my money into this, right? Today I'll be talking about my top 10 ways of how I've excited myself to paint throughout my hobby journey. Just like many of you out there, I started from a place of having no enthusiasm to paint. I viewed it as merely as something that I have to get done to play Warhammer properly. From there, I moved on to painting is okay, but I can never bother to start painting. And now, I love it so much that I do commission painting for a job. But it took a while to build up the routine and the excitement eventually followed. So, I hope that I can help you reach a similar place and that you start enjoying painting more than you do now. Perhaps we'll get you so far that you start enjoying the painting aspect more than the gaming one. Some of these points are somewhat obvious, but they are important to mention nonetheless. And the additional value of this video is that all of the information is in one complete video. So, in no particular order of importance, here are my top 10 ways of how to get into painting. Number 1. Get a habit going on. The most important point to realize is that at the point when painting feels to you like a lesser way of using your time compared to, for example, gaming, you're going to feel like skipping painting most nights. At this point, we need to build up a painting routine. A habit starts forming after several weeks of repeated action. Just make it through 3+ weeks of painting, preferably daily, and it'll come to you more naturally. Once you start having a painting routine, it's much more likely that you'll start finding things you enjoy about painting. You'll be noticing improvement and many finished models. Most importantly, you'll be automatically gravitating towards your painting table from simply the force of being used to it. You might say that you don't have enough time for that, but it's most likely not the case if you take a closer look at your schedule. You don't need to paint for hours on end. Even using half an hour on painting can mean that you finish the pans of 6 miniatures, for example. Progress comes from small things repeated many times. I'd also like to mention that not having enough time is often a myth. It's all about prioritizing. Perhaps you can cut back on watching some YouTube videos, for example. However, if you truly don't have enough time to paint, then well, what's the point of watching this video? Number 2. Have a dedicated painting space. To make your routine formation easy, you need to make painting as easy and hassle-free as possible. One important thing is to have a dedicated painting space. If setting up the space takes you 30 minutes because you need to clear your table from crap, get all the lamps, paints and miniatures, then it's not very likely that you'll bother to paint, especially for a shorter time. Not all of us are fortunate enough to have enough space to leave it only for the purpose of painting. For many years, I just made sure that I had a table with all the lamps set up and enough open space that I could just set up my painting tray that had all the minis and brushes and watercolors I needed in like 10 seconds. I had all my paints in a drawer at the desk. This is completely fine. The tray cost something around 35 euros and I could also use it to protect my table from paint. So no need to cover anything with newspaper. When I stopped painting, I took the tray back and set it up on top of the shelf. No dedicated painting space, no huge hassle, no high cost. I think this is the best solution for those who don't have that much space, but still want to get painting as quickly and as efficiently as possible. When you've really gotten into painting, you can set up something more like what I have now. A dedicated desk with all the paints and equipment I need at my reach. And I can just leave everything as it is and come back later to it whenever I feel like it. Number 3. Get good hobby equipment. Or as good as you can afford. My personal pet peeve, for example, is painting with brushes that have lost their point. Nothing is more frustrating to me than not being able to be as precise as I need to because the brush is falling apart. Paint that feels bad to paint with is just as annoying. Glue that has clogged, dried up green stuff, and whatever else you can come up with. All of these kill your enthusiasm for the hobby. So, in addition to a clear painting space, it's important to have everything you need for painting. If you can't see your minis properly because you have bad lamps, you are unlikely to enjoy the process very much. So, I recommend to get as good and as much as you can afford. Personally, I think it's better to have an average-sized army and good gear rather than having a 10,000 point army that you'll never field and no money for the paints and brushes left over. I consider it a top priority to have proper brushes that keep a point. It's also a good idea to have at least 2 different sizes, preferably 3, to make sure that you can use a brush that suits the job. Good lighting is a must. Paints. One can of course always mix paints, but it's easier and more consistent to have a proper paint for that use. And when you become proficient enough with highlighting, you need 3 to 5 shades of that same color. Other than that, make sure you have good glues, flocks, cutting tools, green stuff. It's also a good idea to craft a wet palette for yourself. Just check out any YouTube video on this topic. As you become more experienced, you'll need additional tools for fancier projects as well. Number 4. Have some form of media in the background. Painting is not always that entertaining. In fact, it's quite passive. Or, as I think about it, meditative. It really helped me through my 60-hour work weeks as a teacher. But most of the time, we end up needing some additional entertainment. Many people love listening to audiobooks, podcasts, or YouTube videos. Some people might enjoy listening to music. I'm weird, and I watch whole shows as I paint. I've gotten good at following what's going on just by listening. Of course, action movies lose a little bit of their luster. Oh well. But it saves me the time that I would otherwise just sit on the sofa and mindlessly watch TV. So there's a good life hack for saving time. Either way, in addition to painting, you'll be getting the enjoyment of consuming that media as well. And that just by itself often pulls me to paint. For example, when I only follow a show as I paint, if I want to see more episodes, I have to start or continue painting. Number 5. Buy miniatures that you'd like to paint. Many of us choose the army, team, units, or whatever based on the rules, game style, power, or the story. But we should focus more on choosing something that we'd also enjoy painting. If you hate painting hordes of miniatures, don't go for greenskins in GW games. If you get easily bored painting the same model for hours on end, don't go for Imperial Knights. You don't need to always play the most powerful force out there or your favorite fantasy race. If you like the miniatures, there's a huge value in just that. Being excited by the models is such a game changer. I see such a huge difference between the commission miniatures I like and don't like. I end up putting way more effort into the ones I fancy, and I have more energy to work for many hours in a row. Of course, I always aim to have a good finished result, but it's way more difficult to make the miniatures I don't like look good. And that can be very frustrating. Obviously, feeling frustrated is not good for your painting motivation. Number 6. Get more invested into the painting project. This is 2 points actually. First of all, don't just choose the most obvious painting scheme for your force, follow the assembly instructions, and use the simplest flock you have. Dig deeper what you can do with your miniatures. Look into the lore, convert them, think of a crazy color scheme, swap some parts, come up with cool dioramas, spend some time to make the bases look outstanding, think of some cool background stories for your characters, and put that work into creating interesting details on the miniature. Using our imagination makes everything way more fun and meaningful, and miniatures are no exception. You'll burn from eagerness to start painting your cool new project. Don't make the painting process a mechanical one where you just paint the red parts red as quickly as possible. Approaching painting your force like a factory worker will make the painting process just as dull. The second point is that I believe we should prioritize quality over finishing the model quickly. You know you love painting when you find yourself painting a model for hours instead of just ticking all the boxes so that it qualifies as a painted miniature as quickly as possible. Getting an army finished in no time is a good skill to have, but the mentality of enjoying the process is so much more valuable in my opinion. And it's worth it when you'll see how amazing your army looks in the end, even if it took a year to finish it. To summarize both of these points, I believe that when you put more effort into the process, you'll be getting more out of it, and therefore you'll actually enjoy the painting process. Don't make painting a chore in your mind. Number 7. Aim to improve. I would say that this has been my biggest motivator to paint as much as I have. At times, it can be discouraging to feel that you're not as good as someone else on the internet. But it's important to only compare yourself to yourself from the past. And when you see that your painting results have improved, you get that sweet, sweet dopamine rush, and you want to go back to the painting table. More importantly, just like the previous point, it's a good way to give your painting more meaning than just getting paid on all the necessary parts. Painting becomes a real hobby for you when you constantly think of how to go to the next level and practice as much as you can. Concrete ways of aiming to improve are to always try something new with each new project. Try out new colors, new techniques, more complicated conversions and bases, and once in a while it can be really exciting to just take a mini and paint it to your best ability, even if you have no plans to play with that model in the future. Number 8. Get inspired by others' art. Don't forget to look at other people's painted miniatures and observe other forms of art to get inspired for your own work. Not only do you learn how to be a better painter, you also find new color combinations, ways to improve the atmosphere in your finished models, and what kind of conversions to make. Watching other people's work really makes the creative juices flowing and inspires you to grab the painting brush and get some of your own work done. Plus, it's valuable to have a catalog of color schemes you like at your disposal for future use. Instead of using a huge amount of time thinking about what color schemes to use next, you'll get into the flow of painting right away when you start a new project. Number 9. Share your miniatures with the community. It feels good to get a social aspect into the painting. It's easy to do this by sharing pictures of your painted miniatures on various forums and pages. You get invested in trying your best and seeing what others think of your work. Seeing other people's finished miniatures, likewise, is a great way to inspire yourself, as previously mentioned. Start a small blog and post finished work of your miniatures every week or month. That's a great way of making sure that you keep painting at a good pace. And don't forget to encourage others as much as you'd wish them to encourage you. I know it can be daunting to post your work when there are so many amazing painters out there, but 99% of the time they were at the same level as you are now when they were at that stage of development. You are a work in progress, and therefore you will get better. Keep that in mind when you feel scared to post your pictures. Just make sure that you take good pictures and don't diminish your painting result. Number 10. Get some friends together to paint. What's even more social than being on the internet? I can't remember. Yeah. It's seeing friends in real life. Just like playing any games is more fun with your friends, the same can be said for painting miniatures. If you and some other people you know find it difficult to get your painting done, why not get together and paint together while chit-chatting about everything and nothing? This also serves as a great way of creating clear time when you just sit back and paint. So, with all that said, let's look at what we've learned. First of all, make sure to get the ball rolling. Get a routine started. Find things you enjoy in painting. As you start to paint more regularly, make sure that you don't approach painting as a chore, but instead focus on letting your creative juices flow. Get inspired by others and share the hobby online and with your friends. I hope that you'll find yourself enjoying painting just as much as I do one day. I truly believe that it's the best hobby a person could have. Thank you for watching this video. For more videos like these, stay tuned and subscribe. And don't forget to visit my website www.lumiyokimini.com to check out my work, and if you just can't find yourself enjoying painting or having enough time, then order a commission. I've got plenty of space for new customers.